Are we live?
We are live, yes, we are live. So everyone say hi.
Hi.
Oh my... Oh no, the red mic's broken again!
Again.
Well, I see the issue, actually. Actually, I do see the issue. Hold on. Welcome to live tech support at Star Radio. My name's Tom Wilson. I'm the co-host of Let Me Talk and the host of The Dispatch. As I carry my mic around, we're going to fix Trinity's mic live on air. So, I see the issue here. Broken. Use another mic. Never mind. Tech has told us to go F ourselves.
So I did tell you guys. Yeah, I did tell you guys before. You might have to share it.
Yeah, that's
Hold on. I'm trying a thing. Okay.
You never know with this studio.
Let's see, because otherwise, then I'll make Callum and I to share a mic. If you want to try this one.
Oh, that's smart.
Okay.
There you go. If you want to try this one, it's a bit fiddly.
You know, that's kind of smart, right? Because you can just tap me on the shoulder whenever you want to talk, and then we can go from there. And I'll tap you on the shoulder.
Yeah. That's fine.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Hello and welcome to Let Me Talk, the show where you talk and we listen. I'm your host, Callum Mayer, and Tom Wilson is beside me as my co-host. We have some wonderful, wonderful guests in the studio. Please say your names.
Hi, my name is Zahra.
Hi, I'm Trinity.
This is episode 2, and today we're going to be talking about Black History Month. Woo!
Very exciting.
Round of applause. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to start off with a couple questions, and we can just go straight fire right into this. So what is Black History Month? Just give us a little nice summary.
Okay, so if someone came up to me in the street and they asked me to explain it, I would just say it's a celebration of black culture. And when they say history, I think they're just trying to, understand the fact that we have so much of it and only so little of it can be celebrated consistently. So they gave us a month to do that in saturation form. We saturate everyone with our history. So in my mind, that is what Black History Month is.
Yeah, I think it's just making up lost time of not celebrating black history, black achievements, just black people prospering and excelling in certain fields. So I think it's just a time to focus on achievements that previously were just ignored or brushed past.
I agree, yes.
And I think one question that I have, and a lot of people do have, right, is there any significance to Black History Month being in October?
Okay, so actually, somebody asked me this a couple of days ago at an ACS event, and I was stuttering away because I had no idea. But I did look it up eventually, and in the UK anyway, it was only developed in the 1980s, which is a lot later than it was developed in the US. So we did kind of take it from them, we took the idea from them. But in the UK, it's celebrated in October because one of the reasons why is that the school in the UK starts in September, so they wanted to do it in October so the black children attending school would actually get that sense of pride closer to the beginning of the term, which I thought was quite interesting actually.
Right.
And then the second one was just actually I asked my parents about this to confirm because it just sounded a little bit dodge. But apparently black leaders and African tribe leaders, they meet a lot in October, and I asked my mum, she was like, yeah, it's true in a political sense and in in a village sense as well. So that's the UK.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so is it different in the US then? Do they have a different month?
Yes, I'm not sure if it's in February.
Yeah,
I think it's February, yeah. But I honestly...
Right, this is why I'm so confused, because my timeline on Instagram is like Black History Month in February and then in October, and I get so confused. I'm like,
yeah.
I would have thought that it would have been, international one month, but that's interesting.
I mean, I guess I went to an American school, so I feel like it's also Black History Month. When we've talked about at school, I went to an American school in the Middle East, so not in America, but it's very much African American history, which does not encompass obviously Black history, and so it's also it's very obviously talking about Black history. From what I have learned, it seems obviously very different, and please refute me if I'm wrong, but it seems like it's obviously very different to talk about African American history or Black history in the UK. It's obviously it's to me it seems like it's similar obviously, but quite different.
I think they're completely I wouldn't say completely two different realms, because I think everything that happened in the US definitely had a large impact on Black history in the UK, but in America, Black History Month it started because on the second week of October, Abraham Lincoln's birthday and Frederick Douglass's birthday, who was a former slave, their birthdays coincide on the second month of October, so that's why it's Black History Month there. So I feel like that wouldn't really relate to the UK, so obviously they needed to find another month, which makes sense. But I think in the bigger picture of it all, that kind of just shows how they're different, but they're both called Black History Month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, on you go. Sorry. On you go.
No, I think it's just different achievements, and like, I mean, while we share same struggles, like, I guess the product of the diaspora is a bit different, and yeah, just different things, different achievements. Although I will say that in the U.S. sometimes we do talk, like during Black History Month, about people who maybe weren't American but they were still Black, because it's the Black experience, despite different countries, is so universal that like their achievements are our achievements.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was going to ask, is about like the distinction between Black history and African American history. Do you think it sometimes gets muddled up or sort of like mixed in with each other? Is that sort of maybe frustrating, or sort of like generalizing in a way?
Personally, I don't really like. I mean, the term African American, it's fine to me, but I don't really like identify as much. I prefer the term Black, because I think African American is something that was just invented so that people felt that they were like more politically correct, but it's not it's not necessarily what people in the Black community call ourselves. So do you think
it's a name with like a political agenda in mind?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure of its origins, but no one I know calls themselves African American. It's usually Black, and I think it's because in the U.S. it's so hard to relate to our African roots, because it's just so far back and so removed that it's just like, it's not that we don't want to, it's just there's no association anymore, unfortunately.
I think having Trinity, who's from America and Black, and I think me being British, first generation, so obviously my parents were born in Senegal and then they moved here, so like my connections to Africa are very, very deep. So I feel like when someone says Black history and then African American history, I feel like they can mean the same thing, because African American history is Black history. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's weird, because if someone was asking me about Black history, the first thing in my mind, like I'd maybe speak about Africa, but someone say African American history, the first thing in my mind would maybe be like the Civil War or something like that.
Yeah.
So I feel like to coincide them, I wouldn't get offended, but like I feel like there's differences definitely there that we should acknowledge.
Definitely, it's not something like people should be like afraid to use. It's just probably wouldn't be a term that we use as often, because I think, again, Black experience, no matter where you are, is quite universal, so we don't really feel the need to be like, well, we're African American, because just, I don't know, personally I believe that just Black is what I am.
I think maybe we can go into the next question if you want, Tom. I think this is actually a really interesting one. Is the celebration of this month purely reserved to the people of an ethnic background, or can everyone participate? And if so, how can they participate?
So, in my mind, like being in the ACS and doing all of these Black History Month events like throughout the year, it would make me like 1,000 times happier if I saw somebody that wasn't a person of color there. Do you know what I mean? Like if I saw a white person who's like, just for example, coming to one of the events and they want to educate themselves, and I think that's the main thing. What they can do the most is educate themselves on Black history, educate themselves on the Black experience, because at the end of the day, like for us to feel safe in whatever community we're in, it's up to the people around us, and we can't always make excuses for them being ignorant or not knowing what's going on, or wondering why I'm offended that, I don't know, they touch my hair. It's basic, but you know what I mean. Like if they touch my hair, like that's on them. There's only so much we can do to urge them to come. So I don't think it's reserved for one ethnicity. Definitely.
Yeah, I totally agree. Black History Month is a time for celebration for us, but it's also a time for learning for, I think, other people. And just like Zahra said, like, we can only do so much, but it's open for everyone, and like we want to share our experiences, especially our experiences in St. Andrews, and to know that we actually have support outside of our small community.
That's an interesting point you brought up. That was actually one of the questions I was going to ask you about, like sort of the basically about the Black experience in St. Andrews. I mean, I like personally just walking down the street, it's pretty obvious this is a predominantly white town, and I'm guessing that must have an effect of some sort. I guess it's up to you. Like, what do you think is the effect of that?
So I think if I was to go back, like I was born in London, like in North London. I grew up there. I went to a school with a lot of people of color, and then I moved to Scotland, and like I was like the only black person in my class, and that was, so I already got like the kind of sense of that. But then when I go back home to like Senegal and things like that, I don't think about race. But then when I come to St. Andrews, it's like the community here. For example, in high school, there was one other black person in my class, but we didn't really have a sense of community because there wasn't enough of us. But in St. Andrews, I feel like, yeah, I can have an ACS event with 30 people, and that would make me happy. But also, it would make me happier if I, as you said, walk on the street and saw people that, you know, looked like me. And I think there is quite a lot of ignorance here when it comes to things like that, and it can come from a socioeconomic background, like how people view race, but how I've heard it in St. Andrews, how people view race sometimes can be a bit suspicious, but yeah.
I think it's kind of, well, I kind of had an opposite experience. I've always grown up, I grew up in a predominantly white area, so I honestly couldn't, I think it's quite odd to always be the odd one out, like to always just know that you're different, which is, again, I didn't expect anything different coming to St. Andrews. I knew that going in, but I think it's just kind of like, yeah, it's a bit of an isolating experience, and I think personally, like, finding a community is so, like, important, and finding other people of color to talk to is so important, because it's just, sometimes you can experience things other people won't notice, and it just feels quite isolating and like unwelcoming.
If I could just add on to that as well, I think the importance of what Trinity just said also relates to Black History Month, because I feel like consistently throughout the year we're looking for black spaces, like spaces where we feel like, I'm not saying black spaces, everyone in the room needs to be black, but predominantly black spaces, so you could say something without having to put context behind it consistently. And sometimes it does feel like a burden to just be in the room and you're the only black person, and it's like a weight on your shoulders having to explain everything to them, like, how does your hair like that, blah blah blah. Sometimes you just want to have a conversation with people and they don't bring up your race, so yeah, I think that's hard in St. Andrews.
Have a place where you're unapologetically and completely able to be yourself and not aware. Like, a lot of people think, like, oh, maybe you bring up race too much, but I think for me personally, it's just, like, a constant thing that I'm made aware of. Like, there's not a day I go and I'm, like, get to forget. Not that I want to forget, but just be a person, not a black person in St. Andrews.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I do quite find interesting, because obviously, I mean, I'm very, very, very clearly white. I mean, there's not even, like, you can't even just look at me and be like, is it? No, he's absolutely white. But I went to an international school, and, like, there were 60 nationalities in my class, and when I first came to uni, my flatmates, her parents were from Sri Lanka. She grew up in Glasgow, but everyone in her school was white. And all my other flatmates, they pretty much had predominantly white schools. That it was like, even me as like a guy who's very white, just because of the fact that I went to international school, they go around and be like they just start describing some people by race. I was just like, okay. I just kept on going. I was like, guys, we know Ethan. We don't have to keep describing by like what race he is.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I was going to ask you, Trinity. You know of the 1619 project?
No.
It's a project kind of put forward by some journalists of the New York Times, which is trying to reframe American history as starting in 1619, when the first slave ship from Africa from the African continent came to Virginia. It's trying to say, well, look, this is the real beginning of American history. Whereas, like, like as you know from school, like when we did U.S. history, it's like it starts at, when did they really start? Like Boston Tea Party, some like some colony stuff, but really they'll start like Declaration of Independence, 1776. What do you think of like that as like this looking at that from like that different point of view? That kind of like, I guess it is a post-colonial view of history. How do you see that in opposed to like, as opposed to the very Eurocentric kind of like, this is the British colonies, now we're America?
I think it would have been something that I would have really appreciated growing up. Not to say that all American history started there, but just maybe to put more of an emphasis in talking about Black history, because it's not crazy to say that Black people built America, because they did, whether it's culturally or literally built America. So I think there's not an emphasis on Black history in school, and in fact, when we do talk about it, it's quite mitigated for, especially if you're in a primarily white area. They mitigate it and they say, well, oh, they were nice slave masters. They were, some people really loved their slaves. And it's just kind of, I think that at least where I grew up, in my state I grew up in, has the second best education in the U.S., but extremely lacking the facts. One time I had a school assignment that asked me to describe Frederick Douglass's employer. His employer, actually his slave owner. So it's just, I think the U.S. history is just really messed up, and it's just lacking completely. So I think they definitely need to include, and maybe not so much, I think a lot of the U.S. history is focused on Black trauma and not so much Black achievements. They focus on the time that we were enslaved, which is so important to focus on, but don't really focus on any of the good things that Black Americans have contributed.
I think my next question is, do you believe that the celebration of Black History Month will have a positive impact on tackling the issue of racism, and how do they do that?
I would like to think it does, but like if I'm really, really thinking about it, like I think it's mainly a celebration for us. Like, in the day and age we are in, like, it's hard to be like, we're tackling racism. And when people say we're tackling racism, most of the times they are not. They're just fixing prejudice that they've built up over the years. And racism is just so deep in our systems. It's so systematic that you cannot tackle it with 1 month of celebration for us. So when I think about Black History Month, I think about a time that I can celebrate my ancestors and celebrate my friends' ancestors and celebrate my family and things like that, and celebrate myself. So I try not to think of it as it tackling racism, because I think that can be quite damaging when the month is over and nothing has changed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I completely agree. At this, like you said, all the resources are there. We live in the age of technology.
For real.
And it's kind of like, if you want to, you will. There's nothing more we can do, nor, like, should we. Like,
of course,
it's not our responsibility. I mean, obviously, if people have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them, but at the end of the day, it's not Black people or any other minority's burden to educate you. Like, the information is there, history is there, it's all on the internet. You do quick Google search. At this point, it's out of our hands. So I totally agree with Zahra that, like, while we want everyone to enjoy this celebration, at the end of the day, it's more of just a time for us to be proud of who we are and where we came from in our culture.
Does that not necessarily imply that, like, if you're given a month to be proud, then what's the, like, significant of, like, the other 11 months? Like, why is Black history boiled down to just 1 month? Does that imply that the other 11 months are for white history? Like,
I think I'll have to contradict myself a little bit, because, like, although Black History Month is for us, I feel like it is termed so other people know about it. Do you know what I mean? Like you'll go around the street and, like, people be like, oh, it's Black History Month, and it'll be like a white person. Do you know what I mean? So I think it is important that there is a month for it, like executively Black History Month, so people around can be aware about it. Do you know what I mean? Because if we didn't have one and we were just celebrated to be proud of our ancestors all year round, which we do anyways, I feel like it is a good thing that it's named and that it's there, and, like, it's all over the media and things like that.
I totally agree with Zahra. Like, there needs to be an emphasis, but not necessarily for us. It's great that we get to enjoy these events and have these extra events, but we're Black. Every day is about being Black and about where we came from and where we're going. So this is not like, for us, for me personally, every year is Black. All year is Black History Month. So
would you say it's like, it's basically just, like, the month is more for, like, I guess, like, not spreading awareness, but kind of for other people to be conscious of Black History Month, or just of Black history, and kind of getting them to maybe think about it or maybe research it, instead of it just being like a month, because like you're saying, all like Black history is 12 months, like it's not just 1 month, but maybe it's just that month is the one where you can kind of sort of maybe it's for more exposure. I'm not sure.
No, I agree over the fact that it gives us the opportunity to be a little bit louder about it, and like, you know what I mean, like in the ACS, like there's not every month we can have like 6 events that celebrate, you know what I mean, so I think it definitely gives us that opportunity to like push it a bit more in from our perspective.
I agree. It's just about getting it out there to kind of any other like Hispanic Heritage Month, Asian Heritage Month, or even anything for like maybe like we have months for like diseases and stuff. Just it's one time to focus all of our energy into just making sure everyone else knows that it's year round.
Exactly.
Just because obviously I was late because I was doing secret agent stuff, which I will need to leave for in 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
It's only 30. You know, you're a secret agent.
Then can you show me how to put the?
Yes, I will. I was just going to ask you guys, just because I missed it. What did you guys study again?
I study management in Chinese.
I do IR in German.
Did you take? Well, you probably know of IR Trinity, but obviously you know post-colonialism.
We haven't had the lecture yet, but yeah.
Yeah, I do IR as well. But yeah.
Coming up soon.
Yeah, we did a little bit on it last year. And bringing that up, what were you going to say about this? I was going to talk about Pan-Africanism.
It's very much linked. So third year, I'm doing one of my classes is Arab-Israeli conflict. Which obviously, I know not black history, but it's very post-colonial centered. So kind of bringing back Palestinian, if you think like especially like a lot of their history is based on memory and it's not recorded. So it's historians having to try and find one which is not in the, because of Eurocentric kind of like mindset in academia, is not in the limelight, but they've had to also try and find those people and history that does not have a record, which in a lot of different post-colonial places, for example, especially you think of black history, not only of African history, but even in the US or in the UK, would you think there's been some progress made, like in terms of maybe not just academic history, but just in the teaching of history, to move past that kind of like Eurocentric idea of teaching of history and move towards kind of moving towards and promoting, you think of black history, black voices?
I definitely think, I've only been at uni for like a year and like 3 months, but in my time here, last year when I was doing IR, I was actually quite impressed a little bit. I'm not going to hype up the IR department too much, but I was like, I was impressed a little bit with the fact they were teaching us of the post-colonialist like theories and like the Pan-African stuff as well, because I think Pan-Africanism is so important for everyone, like not just African people or black people. Like it's just the fact of African unity amongst the diaspora is just so important, and the fact that they were teaching us that in the politics sense as well was very important. But I think obviously secondary school for me, like we only learned about like the transatlantic slave trade. Like for me, like you're sitting in the class, like everyone's looking at you, and it's like this is so awkward, and it's like because they're talking about the brutality of like slaves, and like we all know these things. Do you know what I mean?
Talking about being the PWI, when you have that slave topic in school, and everyone turns around and slowly looks at you.
And it's like I feel like we could have talked about it in a more sensitive sense. I feel like there's not too much sensitivity around the subject of it. Like they were just like, this week we're learning about the slave trade, when there's so much of it, or like put on like an episode of Roots. Like that's kind of
I think like back to what you said about like oral history, I think personally in America, that's any remnants that black people have of our African roots, it's all passed down orally or not in the traditional sense of recorded history. I mean, even AAVE, African American Vernacular English, like that is a mixture of English and it's kind of like a pidgin language, but it's evolved now to how a lot of black people speak as well, and how we express ourselves. But it evolved from enslaved people having to learn English, but just not having the time, of course.
Exactly.
And I just think there's so much that black American history is so rich, and none of it is, for the most part, none of it is from the traditional sense of passing down history and like cultural traditions.
Yeah.
So do you think there needs to be maybe like a change in the education department? Maybe like, I mean, especially in Scotland, because I'm going to be honest, in my school we didn't learn anything. And like, it's not like there isn't. Of course, there's so much Black history. It's so varied, but I guess we just don't get to learn it in like a school setting, which
And
I guess
because I have to go back to work. I'm very sorry. I do not mean this. We are teaching Callum how to do songs, and I need to go back to work now. I'm very sorry, guys. I've had a great time talking to you. A really amazing guest.
It was really
Honestly,
nice to meet
killing
you.
It's awesome. All you do is you cut the sliders for everyone, and then when you're done cutting the sliders, you press play on whatever song
That's
you
the play
have.
button there.
Is that your only play? I've got PJ Morton and 2 Lauryn Hill songs.
sweet. Okay,
It's my old. We're meant to load on the songs beforehand. Callum and I are incredibly prepared.
We are.
It's my old stuff from my show last.
No.
I'm only going to do one song.
Oh, yeah,
to be honest.
and then when you're done, press auto fade. Okay, to go back and do my work I can't talk about on there.
Okay, brilliant, guys.
Bye.
We'll just go for a short break, and we will be back after the song. And we're back. That was fun. That was actually a really short song. I thought it was going to be longer, I won't lie. Like, I was really like getting into talking to you guys there, but that's so annoying. Yes, guys, we have off-air talks that aren't heard on air. Like, the amount of like ridiculous talks I've had like off-air. Like last year I was on Tom's show, The Dispatch, and we had my friend Patrick who came on, and just like the shit he was confessing to off air was absolutely ridiculous. It was so funny. But yeah, okay, so that was sort of our Black History Month segment. We can get back to that, but I was gonna maybe focus more on the societies you guys are part of. So Zahra, you said you were part of the Afro-Caribbean Society.
Yeah, so last year I was like obviously a fresher, so I was in it, but like I didn't infiltrate as much as I did this year. But this year I managed to infiltrate. So I'm the secretary of the ACS. So basically, the vice president, Isaac, who's also my flatmate, he wrote a whole new constitution for the ACS, basically making it more democratic. So like we all have a say in like everything that goes on, so it's not just the vice president and the president that can like make up decisions. So like if something was to go wrong, we all have a spot in changing that, which I personally like. And then also this year our main goal, which is what I kind of talked about before the break, was like creating more black spaces, and I feel like we have done that to an extent. Like last year I was kind of struggling a bit with trying to like go to events and things like that, but this year we're kind of consistently pushing out events, so we're not like leaving the freshers in the depths of hell, that's a bit far, but you know, like the depths of St. Andrews, and like not having anything.
Next door neighbors.
Yeah, but then
So could you maybe like expand on some of the events that you've done so far?
So I'm talk about Black History Month mainly because that's what we're in right now. But the 1st of October we had a panel of power, and it was really, really good. We invited a couple speakers to come from like London, two from Glasgow. We had like an SNP councillor from Glasgow, and it was really, really good.
Oh wow!
So, yeah, it was a really good event, and it was in Parliament Hall, and we're hoping to do it annually, but.
Parliament Hall, that's in St Andrews, right?
Yeah. So it turned out really good. Like, we just got them all to say a little bit about their background, their fields, and we wanted to get a variety of fields. Like, we got a musician, politician, junior doctor, things like that, just so they can expand on their experiences of being black in their field, because I feel like it varies so much from, like, if you're a musician and you're a doctor, obviously you haven't had maybe this experiences are similar in a contextual sense, but like personally we wanted to really let them get personal with us, and you know how, you know, we're all at uni, we're all trying to find our way where we want to go in the future, so I feel like it was good for everyone to kind of hear that. But we have other events coming up as well, but this is not marketing, so I'm not going to get into that. But
no, I mean you can plug whatever you like.
We have Ubuntu, which Trinity is actually head of logistics.
Yeah.
So
there you go, Trinity.
How do you feel about being in
Expand on
Ubuntu?
So I wish I had joined ACS last year. I think I was just a little bit intimidated. I didn't quite know how. I mean, I don't know if this is odd, but I didn't know what it meant to be black in the UK quite yet.
That's very valid.
I didn't know what that was going to be like. It's my first time ever being in the UK last year. And I also didn't know, like, again, as much as we are the same, we're also the Black American experience. Again, we don't, I think, at least from what I've observed, a lot of people who are Black here have a lot more recent ties to maybe their African or Caribbean heritage. And I think sometimes that can differ because, again, Black Americans kind of had to create their own culture. So I was, like, concerned that maybe I wouldn't be able to relate. Just kind of like fresher's anxiety. But I regretted that very much. So I didn't realize how much I needed a community at the time. So now I'm in ACS, and towards the end of last semester, I watched Ubuntu because I'd heard about it through Zahra, and I was just blown away. Not only did they encompass, like, African history and African culture, but they also, I believe, had some, like, dance tributes to, like, American culture, and I just thought it was stunning and, like, the best fashion show. So I was like, okay, I really want to get involved in this. And so, am I allowed to say what the theme is?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. So the theme this year for Ubuntu is
Afrofuturism.
Afrofuturism, sorry.
How would you explain that to someone that doesn't know what Afrofuturism is?
Okay, when you look up Afrofuturism on Google, like, it will just
I'm
come
gonna Google
up.
it, actually.
Yeah, it will literally just come up with a picture of, like, Black Panther, and I, like, understand what they mean because obviously, I don't know, I'm a Marvel fan, so Marvel freak, so like, they go in and there's all this new technology and things like that, and they're in Africa, so they're living in the future, being African. That's like the
right. So basically Wakanda.
Yeah,
right.
But
kind
like
of the aesthetic of, like, Black people in, like, a kind of maybe more, like, science fiction dystopian sort of role.
But if you're thinking about it philosophically, is that there's a future for Africa, and there's because I feel like when people talk about Africa, they talk about this third world country, and I'm not saying that it's not, but like they're like, they don't have water, all this blah blah blah, which is not true. Being from Senegal,
it's pretty ignorant stereotype.
Exactly. Being from Senegal and from, like, the capital of Senegal, Dakar, like, it's a very, very modern place, and I feel like people would not expect that when it comes to their head. So I feel like this show, I'm the head of choreography for Ubuntu, so what I will try and portray is the fact that there's more to us than just traditional Africa. Like, there's so much, we have so much more interest. Like, people that come from Africa, like, we don't just care about, like, the traditionalness of, like, oh, there's new people there's people with new developments, there's people that are there's more education, more educated people. So, you know, we have all these new stuff coming out of Africa that we want to show as well.
Do you guys do, like, music events?
Because, like, we have our launch party, which is actually in the 601 on the 22nd of October. So we'll have a DJ for that and things like that. We need a playlist. I'll probably be asked to do it, but, like, it's fine. It's fine.
You know what kind of music you'd be playing, though?
Yeah, it would probably be, like, a mix of, I don't know if you guys know Kate Trinada.
Yes.
He's like a DJ. He's worked with Tyler, the Creator. He's worked with Kali Uchis, and, like, the type of music he makes, for some reason, it just encompasses Afrofuturism for me, because he's, like, one of the first, like, Black American, like, DJs that's gone fully mainstream with, like, artists and things like that, and that personally makes me proud. But then also the style of music as well is very, like, house and things like that. There's not that much African house. Yeah.
Have you heard what's the album? Is it like 99.9%?
Yeah.
It's like
really
really good.
So it's like the mix of African, like, Afrobeats with, like, the house music. I feel like it's very Afrofuturistic. I don't know. For me personally.
That's really interesting. I've never really thought about it that way, but I guess that's really really enlightening, actually. I was also going to ask. I'm really hungry right now, so, like, my brain just went to, like, African food, jollof rice. I really want to try it. Like, I've had so many friends say it's, like, really good, and there's also this thing where it's like Nigerian versus Ghanaian jollof rice.
I hear you. It's bussin', but have you had it before?
No, I haven't. I don't know. It's not like. Again, I grew up in a very predominantly white area, so I never had that, like, exposure. And then I came here. I don't know where I would get it. I don't know where I'd get it in St. Andrews, or maybe I'll have to go to Dundee or something.
I personally, my mum would make it. Like, my mum and dad would, like, make it at home, but, like, ours would be Senegalese, which in my opinion is, like, 10 times better. But we're not trying to get into all of that right now. But
there's always, like, a little competition.
Exactly, but, like, people always forget about Senegal, and, like, our food is just good. But, like, we keep it quiet because we're humble. We're humble people. Like, we know our food's good. we don't need to argue with people. But I'm not saying that Nigerian and Ghanaian is not good as well. But I feel like our traditional food is just. It's so good, and like soul food as well.
Oh, soul food.
Isaac's from DC. He makes great soul food.
Oh man, I not to play into stereotypes, but fried chicken. Fried chicken is so good.
You guys should sort of, maybe you could do like for the Afro-Caribbean site, like a sort of like come dine with me style.
No, yeah, we had a potluck actually on. It was like a week ago or something. No, it was like 3 days ago. I don't know.
Actually,
it's all blurred into one, Black History Month for me. But I feel like we need to have another one purely African Caribbean. You know,
nice.
Because I know I remember seeing like Freshers Fair. There was, I think it was like an Asian.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it was like a tasting event or something, but you could basically come down and just get like Asian food.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm there. Like,
yeah, we need that, St. Andrew, because there's literally nowhere to find African food unless it's coming from our kitchens.
I'm so curious.
I wouldn't even know where to start.
I've heard so much about jollof rice, and I think it's time I need to try it.
It is good. It's good.
Yeah, so I was also like, I'm going to bring the conversation back to Black History Month because there's a couple questions I forgot to ask. I guess whenever someone says Black History Month or even Black Lives Matter, there's always someone in the background that has to pipe up and say All Lives Matter or White History Month. So I kind of wanted to ask you guys, why do you think that is, I guess, problematic? Because I guess on the surface, right, a phrase like All Lives Matter sounds fine, but I guess the what it's intending to do isn't.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. Like,
I think it's sorry.
No, go.
I think personally for me, it's just kind of some tough love. It's not about you.
Yeah.
Like everything was about you for the past 400, 500, however many years. It's not like if your friend has a broken leg, is in the hospital, and you're complaining that the intention's not on you because it's on your friend. Like, it's just a matter of fact of just being like, okay, suck it up. This is a really important issue. You're not the one who's hurting right now. You're not the one who's suffering right now. In fact, you should be bringing flowers to the hospital. So it's just...
That's a really good analogy.
In my mind, if somebody came up to me and said, All Lives Matter against... I feel like when you use them in comparison to another, that's when I'll be like, that's too far. But it's just like your whole life you have never been marginalized in terms of your race. I feel like that's what they forget. They're like, reverse racism exists. I'm like, okay, whatever. But when they walk into a room, the first thing people will never look at is their race. And for me, I think privilege is actually a tangible thing. Like, I feel like it's not intangible because it affects my future. It can affect my physical being. It can affect my mental being. So I think privilege is a tangible thing, and for someone to be like All Lives Matter, it's like, well, you've never had to grab onto that privilege before, and now that it's because it's already with them, and the fact that we're not even taking away their privilege, we're just giving ourselves some
saying, oh, maybe, just maybe we're actually equal.
Exactly.
Maybe we just deserve the same slice of pie that you guys have enjoyed for the past however many years. And
it's like the minute one person, it's like we're not even threatening to take away their rights, as they've done to us in the past. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's not even... They when people say that, I feel like they have never even thought about the historical connotations of what they've just said.
Yeah. Do you think that comes from a place of, like, miseducation? And if so, what's the best way to go about kind of... not maybe just, like, educating them? Like, how do we do that?
Again, kind of as I said, like... I genuinely, like, I do understand to an extent, but in this day and age, it's very hard. It's in this day and age, at this point, it's willful ignorance for the most part.
Right.
Like, you turn on the news, someone's saying something. Like, many people have access to the internet. You go to the library, the internet's free. Like, if you want to know, you can know. And so... for me, I have very little patience for people who say all lives matter, white lives matter. Yeah. Like, you can ask people of color maybe even not even people of color, maybe other people who are white and are educated on the subject. Like, it's just at this point, it's willful.
Yeah, for me, I feel like when they say that, they know that it's going to bring out a reaction from people, because if they were actually ignorant or if they were actually uneducated, they wouldn't say it. I just feel like they know that it's a negative thing to say, and then they said it, and they want a reaction out of me, which, again, will make me have a reaction, because it's like, you thought about saying that. Like, I said Black Lives Matter, and you were like, oh, let me say All Lives Matter.
Which, again, shows the privilege.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I personally, I try not to let it affect me, but it's gonna take up space in my mind. Unfortunately, it's gonna take time out of my day, and it's like, sometimes it's like, I call it like the black tax. Like, it's going to take something from me, and it's going to take nothing from you.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
that's, I mean, if talking about tangible privilege, just saying something like White Lives Matter, knowing it's not going to really affect you, whatever my reaction is, but that's something that's going to stay with me.
Exactly.
So back onto like Black History Month. I think it's very interesting what you guys have talked about, and I guess your interpretation of Black History Month being sort of to be like 1 month where it's kind of saturated and exposed and I guess made aware to the public. I think is very interesting, actually, because that was one of my questions. Like, why is it a month? But I guess recently Black History Month seems to be like advertised a lot, whether through like brands like clothing, through sports, like adverts, and I guess it could be seen as though it's more of like a commercial brand rather than like it seems like that's its priority rather than like raising awareness. And I guess, like, I don't know whether it generates capital, but if it does, I was wondering, like, if you guys knew, like, where does it go?
I think this particular point came up a lot for me in my mind during the Black Lives Matter the height of it in like June, and like companies would put on their Twitter like hashtag Black Lives Matter, or like if I went into like, I don't know, like an American Target and saw like a Black Lives Matter t-shirt,
which they have.
Yeah, exactly. I would be like, one,
do you think it's basically bullshit?
Yeah, I think it is. They're just trying to show their allyship, but then at the same time
they're making money off of that.
Exactly. And it's like, I will never ever buy into anything like that unless it clearly states it's going to like a charity, or if it's going into like, I don't know, bail funds, things like that. Why would I buy a t-shirt to go right back into Target's capitalism?
Black trauma is marketable. Black trauma is.
I think that's something that I find like very ridiculous. I mean, just seeing I guess like I was saying, it's like it's completely commercialized. Like the t-shirts, the merch. Like you're literally selling, like
our struggles to the world.
No, 100%. Like it's like not even just brands, but like Netflix shows, like the new Dahmer show that's out. I'm pretty sure the victims, their families are not going to see an ounce of that money, or not enough. To make a show like that, every single penny has to be going to the families of the victims. It's profiting of the trauma of young black men, young gay black men, like, and for what? For true crime, for the true crime like phase that's going on right now. Like, the only way that I could even be remotely like accepting of a show like that is if Netflix didn't see a cent of it, which is just not true, and it's not realistic. So I don't know why they keep. I can list on my I could list and list numbers of shows that things like Netflix and Amazon has profited off of. Just people like to see it. It's visceral, and it's and they're like, oh wow, they're just like us. Oh wow, I didn't know it's that bad. But I mean, it also kind of like makes it seem almost like a fantasy. Like it's like, this is real life stuff. Like, this is, people really go through these things, and it's just like, oh well, it's in the movie.
Are you saying like Netflix is sort of like romanticizing?
100%. I mean, TikTok, it's like everyone's going like, oh my god, Dahmer this, Dahmer that, have you seen Dahmer? That's what I keep getting asked all the time. You couldn't pay me enough money to watch that show. I won't watch it. It's glorified, like, it glorifies serial killers, which I don't support that in the first place, but like, it's just like, yeah, like I said, it's profiting off it. People want to see the pain. People like having a spectacle. They like,
exactly. I really agree with what you said. And I think even to bring it back into a smaller scale, like if you're talking about capital, like people have personal capital to themselves. Like if someone posted on their Instagram story like Black Lives Matter, they're making something off of that. Whether it's internal and they're like, okay, I stand with them, but they're not actually doing anything. And it's like at the end of the day, like I have to watch that story and then maybe I'll see them with like, I don't know, their boyfriend and they're saying something
totally different.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's I think was kind of like I was on the same line as you when the was it like the blackout happened?
Yeah, like the square.
Oh, that was so
And
stupid.
so dumb.
I think I guess I didn't really understand it because it sort of seemed like mob mentality. Like if I don't do this, I need to show. It was like I need to show my black friends I'm not racist.
Yeah.
Like that was the intent behind a lot of it, rather than.
100%.
For real.
Do you know what I mean?
I think the mob mentality is so strong.
And
Because
and like all this performative activism, it's never started by black people. It's never. This is not what we ask for when people are like, "Well, what can I do to get involved?" This is not it. This is not. I don't know any black person who was like, "You need to post your square on Instagram right now, or else." I didn't post a square. Like,
No. And I feel like if all the people that posted squares, which I know will never have, just stopped being racist, like that would be millions, like billions of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's like there's a lot of truth to that. A black square is not going to stop a racist from being racist.
Exactly.
There's a lot more to that. Like, so you're so right. You're so right.
personally, for me, I think racism is going to require a lot more. It's for me. More specifically to St. Andrews, like there has been little microaggressions chipping away. If you want to be an ally, say something, say anything.
Yeah.
Be aware. Be like aware of what other people are saying. Be aware of what you're saying. That's the way if you want to fight racism, that's the way you combat it in little small instances. Because again, for us,
It takes away so much.
It takes away so much all the time, little by little, every day.
That even if just one person spoke up, like it'd make a big difference.
Thank you guys so much. This has been a fantastic talk. We are getting to the end of our show. Unfortunately, I would love to talk about this a lot more. You guys are educating me so much. I'm hearing so much and learning. It's been good fun. Unfortunately, there has been someone that's been like hovering around this like door for like 10 minutes now. I'm getting like passive aggressive vibes off him that he really wants to get in here and start a show. So yeah, I'm gonna.
We can wrap up.
This has been Let Me Talk episode 2 with Trinity and Zahra on Black History Month. Thank you everyone for listening and good night.
Bye.